Well, hello, good people. This is Kendéll Lenice, the Remix Coach, and welcome to Kendéll Lenice Live. I'm so excited and honored to have this show and have these amazingly beautiful people with me today talking about how to heal the hurt, healing the hurt in an authentic and healthy way. Everybody has been through some things. You know, life keeps lifing. And as long as you're alive, you're going to experience some things, whether you're trying to understand childhood trauma, whether you're trying to repair, separate relationships, whether it's romantic or friendships, whether you had work hurt, church hurt, whatever type of hurt you have. We are going to be talking about emotional healing today and how to heal the hurt. I have amazing people, and I'm going to keep saying it with me. And I was very selective of the people that I chose because you guys know it's all about changing the narrative for me with Black folks and having programming that can educate, elevate, and entertain at the same time. We see one thing, and as Black people, we're not monolithic. We have different experiences, but we have some experiences that allow us to share some of the same pains and experiences. So we're going to talk to these therapists and life coaches. This is a panel for you. You don't want to miss. Stay tuned. All right, I am excited. So right now, if you want to share this, I will give you a couple of seconds to share this before I introduce my guest to you. I'm going to make sure I share it as well. Let's see. And if you haven't caught the other panels, you need to go to the Kendéll Lenice Live panel playlist, and you'll see all the other panels. This month, I have been focusing on the panels. I do panels. If you follow me, you know that I do panels often. But this month, every week, I wanted to have someone else. And I also have, well, you'll see. All right, okay, my girl Stacy J is going first. Let me make sure, and I'm not going to read like these people, you know, they be doing it, okay? They are not new to this, they're true to this, and every person on here is passionate about helping others heal, right? Because that's why they're on the show, and they're honest about who they are and their experiences, and they're putting themselves out there to help you heal. All right, so I can't read everybody's full bio, but I want at the end, I'll give all the information so you can check everyone out individually. All right, so this is Stacy J. She is a life enthusiast, and she is the CEO of Live 365 Empowerment. I've met her on social media. She is a woman after my own heart. We connected. I don't know if it's because we're the same age, but some of the stuff that she says, I'm like, yes, you know, I'm all, you know, under the comments with the emojis and everything. And I'm so honored to have her on. A little bit about her. Well, I said she's the CEO of Live 365 Empowerment. That organization's events, radio shows, and results-based programs equipped women to reinvent themselves, identify, accept, learn, and how to overcome challenges through understanding past trauma, self-imposed negative thinking, and how to create intentional roadmaps to defining their lives. Everybody, welcome Stacy J.
Hey.
Hey, Stacy. Thank you so much.
I'm mad about my background. My background failed me.
Oh, what happened to the one you just had?
It said it didn't support it, so that's fine. At least I cleaned up.
Yeah. That's all right. Right. It still looks good, girl. And when you start talking, they're going to be listening to your mouth more than they're going to see that background.
Right.
All right. Welcome so much. Thank you so much for being a part of this. I appreciate you.
Oh, no problem. You know, healing is something that everybody needs, and I'm always for that because I'm in a space of healing myself right now. So when you presented me with this, I'm like, I like to say ministering to myself. So, yep. You know, when you're talking to other people, I hear me too. And so you can't give advice if you don't take it. So
come on.
Be here.
She dropping. We only been on 5 seconds and she's dropping gems already. I'm trying to tell you. Next up is Ken. I want to make sure Ken Bernard. He is a licensed therapist, a life coach, and a speaker.
Yes, good evening, everyone. All right,
Thank you
nice
so
to meet
much.
everyone. I'm here to provide as much information around coping, around loss and grieving. And as Stacy said, we all experience some loss and we're coping. I even had a recent loss where, I work as a therapist and I also work for the city. And my supervisor passed away suddenly last week. So it's when I got this invitation, it definitely was something that felt like it was a calling.
Wow. And you know what? I allow God to allow me to use my discernment to decide who I want, because I do know a lot of people, especially in this business. I've been a life coach for 20 plus years. So I know a lot of people in this business, but what you just said gave me chills, because I think it's so important to be intentional when you're speaking about certain things and allowing God to kind of have his way within that. So I'm honored to have you. And what was also important to me is to have a Black male's perspective. That was so important. So I don't have just one, I have two, because it's so important. Right. It's so important to do that, because oftentimes your voice is not heard. And I think your voice has so much power and wisdom as Black men, because you're going to be another Black man or Black boy is going to see you on here talking about how to heal the hurt. So I'm honored to have you. Without further ado, I'm going to bring my next gentleman on, Myron J, certified life coach, author, and speaker.
Hello, everyone. How y'all doing?
Hey, Myron, how are you?
I'm great. It's great to see you again. It's been a long time coming.
I know. We've been trying. We were on Author Chi's show, as you saw, she's here, together, and we have been trying to get together to do things for a very long time.
Timing is
everything.
I'm
glad.
We're here now. Time is everything. So
absolutely. I'm going to read a little bit of your bio. But I just want to say I'm so proud of you. You remember when you were first starting? I remember when your book came out. So to see you now, it's a joy to watch.
I appreciate it. I'm watching you too now. I've been checking you out lately for a long time. You've been doing your thing, and congratulations on everything as well. So keep doing it. I'm glad you invited me here. I'm hoping to learn from everybody else as well as people learning from me as well.
Absolutely. And like Stacy said earlier, that's really what it's about. We could be the experts, yes, but it doesn't mean that we're not people too going through, like I said, life is lifing. And if you're a good leader, you have to learn how to be a good follower.
Yes.
And a listener. So I love that. So since 2017, Myron has been a certified life coach who specializes in helping people cope with their issues. He coaches clients to utilize their heads and hearts. I love that. When you hit a roadblock, he said he hit a roadblock in his own life. He was struggling to move past it. So the techniques he developed were so successful that friends and family began asking him to help them with their own challenges. So that motivated him to turn his newfound passion into a full-time career. Love that. Love that. All right. So next up, who do I have? Author Chi. I want to make sure let me make sure. And I know Author Chi, I just wanted to make sure I said her last name right. This is Chidima Anusiem. Did I say it right? I said it wrong. Let me see.
It's Anusiem.
Chi Anusiem, author Chi. And she is just an amazing individual. That's who Myron and I were just talking about. I got an opportunity to work with her, and I'm seeing her blossom too in this career, which is so amazing to watch and to just to see. So author Chi, She resides in Atlanta. She is a life after divorce coach. Her transformational divorce and breakup recovery program, From Divorce to Diamonds, help women gain freedom from the pain of broken relationships, regain self-confidence, and position their hearts to love and to receive love again. Author Chi.
Hey.
Hey.
Hey, Myron.
I know, right? I thought I'd surprise you guys because I know you know each other.
Forever. Even since you and I spoke. So it's great to be here, and thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. Like I said, I was intentional about this, and you have a lot to give and to help with. So I can't wait, and I'm excited to move on with the show once I introduce everybody. Thank you so much. I appreciate you for taking the time to be here.
Absolutely.
All right. Up next, who do I have next? Let's see. Who do I want to place next? Let's see. Where is she? There she is. All right, Dr. Keisha Allen. Last time I spoke to her, she wasn't a doctor, so big things popping over there. She is a restorative relationship coach as well as a minister and an author. She was on my talk show, and she has amazing insight, amazing wisdom. I'm so honored to have her here. Dr. Keisha Allen. Hey, Keisha.
Hi, how are you?
I am well. Thank you so much for taking the time out. I appreciate you.
Kendéll, I am so honored to be on your show once again and to be a part of this amazing group of people that you are introducing to be a part of a very important topic that needs to be talked about. So thank you so much for the honor.
And thank you. And I hope your book is doing amazing. We're going to talk about that later on. But you are doing great things. And congratulations on the doctor title.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. He said she's
work, but we finally made it.
Yes. Look, Mama, we made it. And when Takia said that, she said she's Dr. Keisha now. I said, okay, I'm gonna make sure I put that there because that's important. That's a lot of hard work. So you earned that title.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. It was a lot of work, and I definitely earned this title.
Yes. All right. Next, she is just a beautiful soul. I met her on Instagram, and I was going through her page. Like I said, some people I know, some I didn't. I was very intentional about what you guys were saying. You know, I was very intentional about the type of panel I had, even down to the point people don't even understand when it comes to the Black community. I wanted a rainbow. I just didn't want, and somebody might be like, well, why are you looking at that? I looked at everything because representation matters. It's important to me to get the whole hue, the whole spectrum, because that's who we are. And like I said, this channel is about changing the narrative. This beautiful woman, she is amazing. When I was looking at her stuff, I was like, oh yeah, for sure. This is Realitee Payne. She is a healing and self-love coach. Now, I want to just read just some things about her. Give me 1 second. I just got so excited. I hit my, I hit it. All right. So she is a healing and self-love coach. It wasn't until Realitee had her daughter that she began to understand the importance of healing and self-love. This led her into her life work of helping women renew their minds through the word of God and heal their souls so their daughters wouldn't experience the same trauma as they did. Realitee specializes in teaching her clients how to identify and uprooting their past trauma to break out of their negative cycles. Realitee also is an author of Renewed Guided Journal that includes over 150 questions to help you identify your trauma, which is so important. You've carried into your adulthood from childhood and learn you're able to take your power back. Welcome, Realitee Payne.
Hey,
Hi,
guys.
Realitee.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here. I cannot wait to pour out and also receive from you all. So I'm so excited. Thank you for having me.
And I'm so glad that you're here. I got to tell them. So her name is Realitee. It's Realitee, right? So I'm like, so what is it, Realitee? Like I'm trying because, you know, with us, sometimes we don't know. It could look like something, but it could be totally different. And then she was like, it's Realitee. And I love that. So you are going to bring the real. You got to bring the real.
Yeah, I definitely will.
Absolutely. It's so important to do so. All right. So we make sure. Okay, there's Ken is back. So I just wanted to make sure he was there. There you are.
Yeah, I'm back. Those introductions are so overwhelming on my Wi-Fi.
All right, everybody. So we're going to get started. But if you're just tuning in, thank you so much for watching. I am Kendéll Lenice, the Remix Coach. I am a transformational coach as well as a healing and aging coach. I've been doing this for over 20 years. My new book, Excuse Me, You're Unhealed, is showing, will be out next month. This is something that I'm passionate about. I do a lot of panels, but as I was saying earlier to my guests, this is something that I'm extremely passionate about. As Stacy and I were talking, we're both healing now. Like it's a process. That's what you do. You have peaks and valleys. You have certain things that may trigger you or certain things that happen in your life or certain things that you may remember that says, you know what, you need to heal. And my book is, Excuse Me, You're Unhealed is showing. And it's healing is an interesting thing because a lot of people think it's personality. But oftentimes it's really your unhealed that's showing. I could be watching a television show. I could be talking to somebody and I'd be like, okay, this is the unhealed showing. And I really extend grace to a lot of people because I understand that people out here are hurting. I'm going to go to you, Stacy. When I asked you to be a part of this show, and you shared a little bit with me before we went live, but I asked you, well, let me ask it this way. What did you think about the title when I first asked you to be a part of it? Because you were one of the first people that I asked. I think if not, you might have been the first person I asked to be a part of this show because I was watching your post. I was seeing some of the things that you were saying. So what were your thoughts when I asked you to be a part of this panel?
Well, for me, and when I said that I'm going through a healing space, because we tend to have them where we feel healed and then we feel unhealed. And then there's trauma and then there's unresolved trauma. And so when I saw the invitation, because I'm in that space, you know, I'm healing from some mommy issues, you know, I had a breakup, even though it was 2 years ago, you don't realize the destruction that it can do to you and how sometimes you think you're over it and you're like, okay, I'm gonna keep it pushing. But in reality, it comes back and you see it, you see it showing in certain instances. So for me, I'm always a vessel, but I'm also here to receive. And so when I saw it, the title alone made me say, I need to be a part of it. If nothing else, but for me, I need to be involved in it. So I jumped on it, as you saw, immediately, because I feel like you can get comfort and you can get other resources from everywhere. So again, me being here to offer what I have and what I've learned and how I've come, I wanted to be able to receive this as well.
I love that because nobody's exempt from it. And that's really what I want to really express. Nobody is exempt from healing. I'm not sure if you heard that. Okay. Okay. Do you guys hear? I'm not sure where that came from. Okay, I'm going to ask you, Myron, the same question.
I think someone may have been on the laptop. Somebody need to mute. Somebody's on mute.
Yeah, that might be it. Yeah, that's never happened before. I don't know what's happening.
if somebody's watching the show on their phone and on the laptop, it's probably that's what it's like there for.
Oh, yeah, it might be that.
Okay, it's gone now.
Okay. But Myron, so when I ask you, hey, do you want to be a part of this panel? What were your first thoughts when I said this is a Healing the Hurt panel?
Oh, I was ready for it. I was ready to jump on it. It just gives me. I wish I had one of my clients on here because when I had a conversation with her before, her whole thing was, well, I can heal myself. I don't need anybody, or I can just pray about it, and that'll be it. And I have to tell people, you can pray and go to therapy. You can't do both.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why people. I get it. I'm a praying man as well, but I know that I have to need some additional help because faith without work is dead. So that work has to come into you going to therapy, figuring out ways to heal yourself and putting it all together to make yourself better. And me being divorced for 5 years, been through relationship issues, that type of deal, and have my book out. So I just want to just be able to spread information provide information that I've learned over the years to hopefully help someone else as well.
Yeah. And what about you, Dr. Keisha? Because I reached out to speak to you because you have great insight. Somebody's.
Yeah, when I first heard, can you hear me?
Yeah, somebody is. If somebody has a phone there or something. Because that's never happened. I
don't know. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you.
All right. So when I first heard your title, Healing the Hurt, actually that is the work, the lifelong work that I'm involved in, right? Allowing people to come to a brave space where they're able to recognize and become aware of their own selves and to have the tools and the courage to be able to address the traumas that they've experienced, that they bring into their adulthood. When you think about Frederick Douglass, he said it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men, right? And those traumas that we have even from childhood that ends up rearing its head in our adulthood is so important to teach people that our pain can also be our medicine, right?
Yes, I love that.
It doesn't have to kill us, but it can definitely be stepping stones into not only our freedom, but helping others as well to experience the same kind of healing freedom.
I think that's so important. Getting that feedback. I'm not sure what's happening. But I'm just going to go to Ken. I'm not sure what's happening. Ken, what did you think about the title and the importance of healing? Because I think that's the cornerstone to everyone's talking about live your best life, right? But how can you live your best life if you're not healed or you're not even aware that you're in need of healing? Because so many people are running around talking about, I'm living my best life, but they're crying at night. We're seeing this kind of facade on social media and people living these amazing lives and they're doing this and doing that. And I have clients that are like, them, like if you know their face, you know their name, but they're at home crying themselves to sleep. Not even one of them. I can say several over the course of my career talking to people where they're afraid to address what's really bothering them and what's really hurting them. So I'm really passionate about helping people heal the hurt. Why did you say yes to this panel, Ken?
As I had mentioned during the introduction, I'm actually in midst of healing right now from pain, right? Grief. That was one reason. And, working in, the mental health field, some people, they come in for issues that they think is unrelated to pain. They just feel like it's unrelated. But then as we unpack it, we begin to identify and find these indicators that there's some trauma here that you haven't healed from. There's some wounds here you haven't healed from. And I think that even as we were conversing before, as you were inviting me to the panelists, I asked, what kind of hurt are we going to talk about? Are we going to talk about relationships? Are we going to talk about loss? And you said we're going to talk about it all, and that's the thing. The hurt, it comes from many different angles, and having this diverse panel here, I'm sure we're going to tap into all of those areas of pain that we go through, especially in our communities. Communities of color, we go through a lot of pain.
And we were born into trauma. Black folks were born into trauma, and people don't understand that. And oftentimes, us as a people, we're carrying the trauma even of our parents, even of our parents' parents. A lot of people don't understand that. And I often say, we want to leave a legacy, right? And people always talk about a house, a business, a car. But I really want to leave the legacy of healing. Even if you're going to be the first generation in your family to help folks heal, or to say it's okay to see a therapist, it's okay to see a counselor or a coach. It's okay to get some help. It's okay to talk about it. It's okay to cry. Like, unfortunately, a lot of other communities don't have to tell their people it's okay to cry, especially Black men. It's okay to cry. We have to change that narrative and calling them names and, you're soft, or if you do this. I'm like, men have emotions. They're supposed to emote also, because anybody that holds anything in, it's not doing a service to us or to whoever is in the room. What about you, Realitee? Why did you decide to be a part of this?
So I know y'all probably see me making facial expressions, but that's just because literally everything that everyone is saying is touching on the reason why I actually wanted to be a part of this panel. One of the things I love to study is transgenerational trauma, which everybody has touched on. So I love to look at how the trauma has been passing through the bloodline. And when I heard the title, Healing the Hurt, one thing that I thought about is, like you said in my bio, one thing that really shifted me is when I had my daughter, because I was saying to myself, I am not going to pass down to my daughter what I've experienced, what my mother has experienced, and what my grandmother and grandmothers have experienced. So when I heard your title, Healing the Hurt, it took me back to my why, which is I don't want another woman to go through what I had to go through. So just going back to the transgenerational trauma, I love the title. I love everybody who's here, because we do subconsciously pass down things to our children that has not been healed. Because one thing I know, and one thing we see in the Bible, if you don't attack it, it will get pushed down to your children. So that's
for
why
sure.
I'm here.
For sure. And if people don't understand, if you don't address your trauma will address you. And it's not going to be pretty. Those people that pop off of everybody, you can't be vulnerable. You're afraid of commitment. You don't want to befriend another woman, another man. You don't. I mean, we can go on and on and on. And those are signs that there's some healing that needs to be done. And people don't understand, I don't deal with people like that, or I don't ride on elevators, or I don't do all of these things that we think, that's just them. That's their personality. There's a root. And when you get to that root, that's when you can begin healing. Chi, what about you? Why did you decide to be a part of this this panel and this title? Why was it important to you?
I decided to be a part because you asked me to. No, I'm joking.
I'll take that too.
This was timely, and I'm gonna share this from a perspective of a coach, a healer, a minister, whatever title that you carry. So for those of you that are on the panel today, and those of you that are coaches that are listening, this was timely because I remember like praying a prayer, and I was praying like, God, there's only so much disappointment a person can handle. I've been through everything you can think of when it comes to disappointment in relationships, and felt like I was to my breaking point. And he asked me a question. He said, "Aren't you a coach?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, don't you need to have experience in order to coach effectively? Right? Like you need to go through this pain." But see, the thing is, he said, "But I got you. You're gonna be all right. But I need you to get everybody else. I need you to get the people that don't have the necessary tools. They don't know the proper steps. I need you to help them and I'm going to help you. Right.
Yeah.
So he has me in this, I call life school, where I literally have to walk through every type of scenario because he knows that I have a burning passion to then reach back and help somebody else. Not everybody has that passion, right? But for those that are healers, coaches, ministers, whatever the case may be, anybody is called to helping people. Sometimes he allows you to be the trailblazer, others along. So you may be thinking, gosh, life is not fair. Why am I going through all of this? It's not even really about you, right? It's not really about you. And so I've heard all of you all kind of saying today, I'm in my healing process, I'm going through my healing process. That's so intentional because he knows the wisdom and the nuggets of truth and all of that you're going to gain from your experience. You're going to reach back and you're going to pull somebody else along. So I just wanted to encourage you all that may be feeling that way because that was me. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And Kendéll, the craziest thing is the day that he told me that, you sent me a message on Instagram and you asked me a question. What did you ask me? You said, aren't you a coach? You said, are you a coach? I said, yes, I am. Same question. And that's how I knew when I titled this panel, Healing the Hurt, that there was a purpose in my pain.
Oh, you're saying initial.
Yeah. My pain. I'm going to ride this bad boy all the way out.
I love it. I remember because I'll be asking people some random questions because that's so I was like, what time? What did I ask you? But yeah, it's so important. And I think and thank you. That was well said. If you saw everybody's faces, everybody was feeling exactly what you were saying. And the reason why I asked what question is because you have to ask questions to provoke conversation and to provoke healing. And I so agree with you. We have to, if we're going to be professional helpers, right? We have to be able to have, like I said, yeah, I got degrees. Yeah, I got certifications. Yeah, I got all of that stuff. But my biggest commodity is my life. And when I'm coaching someone, I coach from a sincere place, and I think that each one of you, your experience that you have and can help somebody so much. Yes, all of your titles can help somebody. We already know that. But just what you go through as men and women just in life, everybody has been a child. Everybody has a mother or father. Everybody has been in and out of relationships. Everybody has been in and out of maybe different jobs, careers. Everybody has had friendships. Everybody has a family. So there's hurt intertwined all through there. So when people often say, like Myron said, well, A, ain't nothing that I need to heal, and B, that I can do it by myself. You can't do it by yourself because CNN took a poll and they said people that were trying to heal, it was 90% of them when they prayed for healing. This came from CNN. So if you're thinking about 90%, that means that most people know they can't do it alone. But I agree with you also, Myron, that's what God says, use wisdom. And if you're sitting there hurting and you're not doing anything, you're sitting in the bed like, oh God, please heal me, and you're not doing anything to heal yourself, then that's a problem. I want to just define what emotional healing is. Emotional healing is the process of acknowledging, allowing, accepting, integrating, and processing painful life experiences, and strong emotions. It may involve empathy, self-regulation, self-compassion, self-acceptance, mindfulness, and integrity. Who wants to touch on that?
I will. But what's the question? You just want to talk about emotional?
No, I just want to talk about emotional healing. And I should have maybe clarified that because everybody was like, huh? Emotional healing, because people know about physical healing, right? Stacy, you cut yourself, it bleeds, everybody rushes. Get a Band-Aid. Where's the first aid kit? Where's the gauze? Because you can see the blood.
Right.
But what about the internal wounds that you can't see? Nobody is rushing to that.
Right.
Let's talk about that emotional healing and what that means.
As everyone said, Oh, what is that? No. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. We all have different type of emotional issues. So I started, I mentioned my mom, and I have much more. And my mom is such a point to me because she was just here for Thanksgiving. Um, so my mom for me was very unemotional. She was in the house but not present. Um, the things that you would want from a mother, the nurture and hey, my baby girl, and you're so smart and this, I didn't get that. So
Yeah.
you grow up, you keep moving, you like, okay, I'm gonna be somebody, I'm gonna do it, and you don't realize that void of not having that, because that's the first person you get to know. That's the first person you connect with. And so we didn't have a connection. So as I was growing up and then making these bad decisions in relationships. And for me, I've always wondered about life and how it works. And, why do some people suffer and why do you feel this way? So I've always been on that journey to figure things out. And so for me, emotionally, I just try to really understand how I'm feeling, why I'm feeling the way I am. I recognize that the void from my mom was a void for her as well. And I don't know how far it may have went back. So I've just taken a lot of my time from my 20s when I kind of was, like, it's cool, I forgive her, but I really didn't truly forgive her. It was just saying that I was okay with it. I could be okay. But like I said, in my marriage, I kept feeling this void. So it wasn't until I really just started to say, let me look back at her life a little bit. My mother comes from a family of 17 children. They're back to back to back to back. So I'm thinking their mother probably wasn't really that nurturing because you had so many kids to tend to. So you couldn't really spend a lot of time with them. So then I started to forgive her, really forgive her. Say, this is the best she got, Then I dealt with the issues with my dad. Like, you were mad at my dad, and I'm an offspring of that. And you never acknowledged that my dad was my dad, but you sent me over this man's house. So if he's my dad, why am I at his house? You know what I'm saying? So I just had all the trauma and the dysfunction going on. So for me, I just kind of go within because I need to understand that. Because if you're not getting information from a coach or from a therapist that has walked the walk and talked the talk, then I don't know. Friends don't do it for me sometimes because you're talking to me from a place of pain as well. So I try to really dig deep in why am I making the choices that I'm making? That's very important. It's nobody else's fault. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to deflect on the other people what has been given to me through lineage. So for me, I'm a inside person when it comes to, acknowledging what my issues is, not blaming anybody, knowing that, what I'm going through is for a reason, because none of us will be on here saying we want to help other people if we were just kind of laying down to, what we've been through. So I know that our pain is our purpose. And I know that the more that we go within, like, someone said their supervisor passed, you have someone been through divorce, it's so much. But I think when you go within for, the emotional part of it and not just the physical, you start to find your way. But we got to be willing to be aware and accept it.
Stacy, man, somebody has their before. You can pause. Somebody has their phone or something near there. But Stacy, let me tell you, first, thank you for sharing because that was powerful. You spoke to somebody. Trust me. There are so many people, even according to my research with mommy and daddy issues, it's so many people. You just talk to so many people, you don't even know who you're going to encourage to even just say it out loud. Because it's so important to really, like Iyanla says, call a thing. And then that way you can start healing at that point. And it's never too late to start your healing process. So, Stacy, I appreciate that. But you said so many key pointers. Michelle said, amen. So many key pointers because your mom couldn't give you what she didn't have. And we have to really see our parents as men and women before we see them as mom and dad. Because that's that whole pattern. Nobody was healing. They didn't have time to go to therapy and counseling, and you go to church, or you just push it under the rug, and you don't talk about that. Everybody goes through stuff. You don't need to be talking about your feelings. And a lot of people didn't. And that you realized and recognized that and extended that grace and didn't blame and said, okay, this was my life. This happened. I didn't get this. How can I, as Stacy, move to the next level to start my healing process?
And I just want to say this little part too, because she was here, y'all. Oh, and so she came because she's never met her great grandchildren. So I brought her down to meet them. So my roommate here, her daughter was here, and she draws. And so my mother's on the couch with her, and she's sitting there going, "You're girl, this is so good, and you're gonna be this shit." And I'm sitting there for a minute, like, do I feel hurt? Do I feel, what way do I feel? Because that's what I wanted.
Yep.
I wanted that. And I was sitting there like, do I want to cry? Do I want to be happy? And I just embraced it, because even though I didn't get it, to see that she's giving it now is a blessing. So I just kind of I didn't allow myself, I felt my emotion, but it wasn't one of all sadness. But I was just thinking like, Ma, that's all I ever wanted, was you to sit on the couch with me close and tell me how smart I am, what I'm doing is going to be great, and, things of that nature. But, again, me accepting and saying she did the best that she could. I'm going to love her anyway, So, and that was that.
No, but that's so powerful. My parents were divorced when they raised me. I would see my father all the time. He lived in a different state. So as much as that is possible, right? I had a great childhood. And I say that for a reason. I never, where other people would say, I miss my dad. I wish my dad was here. I understood early on that he lived there. I lived here. I see him, and it wasn't until I was 29 years old. I'm 51, right? It wasn't until I was 29 years old where I saw my sisters interacting with him, and I was sitting there and I was like, I think I missed something. I had no clue. And I was sitting there and saw the interaction, and then I saw our interaction. It was different. And I felt it, just like you felt it with your mom. And I felt it. And I was like, Then I had a conversation with my father, and that different kind of conversations went on for years, just trying to understand some things. Whereas when I was younger, I was fine. But it's those moments. And I see you shaking your head, Keisha, a lot. Dr. Keisha, what's on your mind right now?
First of all, thank you, Stacy, so much for sharing that truth. And I am just bubbling up over here because of this conversation. And the truth of the matter is, you are right. Yana said, call a thing a thing. But oftentimes we don't know what the thing is. We don't know where it's coming from. And one of the things that we have learned to do so well is wear mask. And what takes off the mask is truth. And where does truth come from? Not just from God, but from open and honest conversations. And so when I think about my mother, and to be honest with you, my mother was a drug head. She was the one that was tying the rubbers around her arm and sticking needles in her arm. My father was in prison. Thank God both of them emerged. My mother became a social worker. My father is a pastor who's doing prison ministry. But this was something that was interesting about my mother. Once she began her own journey of healing, she began taking off the mask. She stopped pretending that everything was okay, and she set us girls down, and she told us the family secrets. She told us the truths. And here is an example of what I'm talking about. My mother said to me, Keisha, I remember I was 15 years old. She said, at 16 years old, your great-great-grandmother had an abortion. At 16 years old, your great-grandmother had an abortion. At 16 years old, I had an abortion. And she started going through the lineage. And she said, you know what? Now you have a choice. Now that you have the information, you can be better. You can do better. So I was one of the first ones in my family who did not get pregnant at 16 and have an abortion. So here's the thing about hurt. You're human, you're going to have it. It's part of the life process. It's not the issue of having the hurt. It's the issue of how do we become aware of it? How do we address it so that we're not cutting other people who never cut us? Or that we're not bleeding on people who never cut us in the first place. Right? And so that's what's just resonating is, part of the piece with healing the hurt is being able to have conversations that you don't want to have, conversations that you are afraid to have, and taking off the mask and being honest first with self and then sharing that honesty with others.
I love that. Well said. Well said. Thank you. If you muted, it's off somebody's. Okay, somebody's. Miriam says, I can relate to that, Stacy. Thank God for my dad explaining. And what I think she means, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Miriam, sometimes you have to have that conversation. And sometimes it's not an easy conversation, but you have to have it. There's no reason you should be hurting alone. Reality, I see you over there, the same way as Stacy was speaking, as Dr. Keisha was speaking. And then Ken, I want to get to you. What's going through your mind right now? Because we're starting off with childhood. We're going to go into loss. We're going to go into different avenues. But what's on your mind, Reality?
So for me, while everyone was talking, I thought it was so amazing because when I'm doing my coaching with my clients, oftentimes I walk them through my 5 steps of healing. And the first thing I always say is you have to start with acknowledgement, right? And when it comes to emotional healing, what I find is a lot of time it can be rubbed off as, oh, I'm just this way. I've been this way since I was a child. Oh, my mama act just like this, and we're not realizing that, oh, no, this is an issue. Just because we're seeing it trickle down the bloodline, as Dr. Keisha said, this happened to my grandmother, this happened to my mother. We need to start asking the question of why, right? So I loved everything that everybody was saying, and I was nodding so much because I'm like, this goes back to what I tell my clients all the time. You need to be able to acknowledge that thing and then ask yourself, why? Why is this continuing to happen? Why am I allowing this to happen? Because I'm very big on helping my clients take their power back, because I don't want them to feel like they are a victim to what happened in their past or with their mothers, grandmothers, whoever. If we can acknowledge what happened, learn from it, we can take that power back and say, next time I see this, I'm going to be better and I won't operate and make the same mistakes as my parents. So that's why I love everything that everybody was saying, especially when Dr. Keisha said her mother sat down and gave them the lineage. That is something that Black people usually do not do. Keep your mouth shut. You don't need to, why are you picking about what's going on in the past? Why do you care about that? But it's so important because I'm a believer that if you understand your history, you can change your future.
Yes.
So it's like, that's why I'm nodding, because I'm like, once you get those pieces that connect from your past, you can put that stuff together and really change the trajectory of your life. So that's
Absolutely. Well said, Reality. And it's so important to hear the stories of our ancestors, of our family, really sit under their knee and hope, ask questions, because sometimes they won't be as forthcoming as Dr. Keisha's family. But if you ask questions, or to have, it depends on what type of relationship you have with them. I was talking to my 90-year-old grandmother, and I know so much about her life. I'm so grateful and thankful. She shares so much. But even when you think that you know a lot, they can surprise you if you sit down to really have conversations. My grandmother, who was 90, was telling me more of her woman's story. And my daughters, her great daughters, her great granddaughters, and I was just looking as we were in her living room. I was like, this is awesome. Me being her granddaughter, my daughters being her great granddaughters, and she was sharing her story as a woman. It blew my mind. And then you can understand them. Okay, well, she might have not been strict this way, or she might have been, or this is hers. And you're able to understand better instead of in a place of judgment. Like Stacy was even saying about her mom. She had her grandmother had 17 kids. Her mom probably didn't get that. And I think if we humanize our family, it doesn't mean that the hurt's going to stop. It doesn't mean that the healing is still not going to be loading in progress. It means that you can have a better understanding and start healing in a healthy way. Dr. Ken, I'm prophesying over you.
Look, my clients call me that too. I've said I'm not a doctor, but I appreciate it. It saves me money. It saved me money, right? I mean, I like everything that everyone's been sharing right there, and just to piggyback off of Realitee, and I love the name. I mean, when I saw your name first, I was like, is that her real name?
I know.
That's just so creative. But you said acknowledgement. And when it comes to acknowledgement and the emotional healing, we can't begin the healing without the acknowledgement. But, when we think about grief, we think about that stage of denial. Mm-hmm. So if we're in the denial, that means we're not reaching the acknowledgement. And that means that we're not even thinking about putting up the work. Mm-hmm. And denial is not that we don't truly want to, but we have fear. We have fear to begin to address these problems. And Dr. Keisha, your grandmother sharing all of that information. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's not normal that people would do that, because what we do, we keep secrets. Mm-hmm. Right? When we're leaving home growing up, our parents would say, well, if something happens in the house, like, don't tell nobody outside the house. Mm-hmm. And we begin to form this habit, this unconscious behavior where that's what we do. Mm-hmm. And when we're talking about children, it brings up the attachments and different types of attachments that are out there. And there's like one main attachment that's preferred, which is secured attachment. And then there are insecure attachments. But the secured attachment, to get to that attachment style growing up, it comes from the caretakers. So, if our parents, our caretakers, and it's not always our parents who are caretakers. We may, grow up in a home where our uncles, our grandparent, whoever is our caretakers, but our caretakers have to create an environment that's safe, that we could thrive and we'll feel protected. And then as we grow up, that helps us become this self-confident, a person with good self-esteem. We are able to carry relationships long-term, and this is why in schools now, them having social workers in the schools and psychologists in the schools is important, because a lot of the kids, they're not sure how to interact, and they're bringing what's happening at home into the school. And then now when it comes to building relationships, they're struggling on that. When it comes to mediating their problems alone, they're trying to mediate it in the playground and a fight breaks out. Whereas now you may have a provider that could help you mediate with that person you were arguing with in the class right then and there. So it's so much that, and I think in our communities is so much that we go through. Now, me being a Black male therapist, a Black male life coach, it's tough. It's very tough, because that wall of denial, that stone wall that some clients have, is because as a man, we define masculinity that we have to be strong in even the weakest, situations. I follow this. He's a karate sensei, but also like an influencer named Jason Wilson. He's based out in Detroit. Some people heard of him. Dr. Keisha, I see you. Yep, you took the horn on him right there, right? And he talks about, he didn't label it, but he described for men, he called us thugs. He's using terms that are familiar to us. He called us thugs. And thugs he defined it as traumatized humans unable to grieve. So he described it that as men and as boys growing up, we're not allowed to cry. We fall, come on, you good, wipe your tears. And we're not allowed to cry. So now we're carrying that into our adulthood when we're going through stress and we can't open up to our partner who's asking us to open up more because they see that we're in pain. They could read us. Yeah. And it starts from the childhood. And he says that even when he knows this, he already has this in insight that, all right, I'm in this emotional prison. He still has a fear to come out of this emotional prison because he's afraid of what vulnerability will look like for a man. So, you know, it's important for us to even now, like I have 3 daughters, I have 1 son. And you know, at times, sometimes my wife and I, she's, you know, she tends to at times be like, you know, you gotta make sure your son tough. He's surrounded by three ladies here. And then I'm like, knowing what I know now is like, that's not even my, maybe a couple years ago that would be my priority. But now it's like, I want him to feel safe to express his feelings, feel vulnerable, cry in front of me, cry in front of his sisters, his mother. So now, you know, it's like I want him to get comfortable in his emotions. So now as he gets older, you know, that's when he gets older, he's going to have more insight. And that's where I could probably work on the other aspects that we define as masculinity in a healthy way.
I love that. You said a lot. That was good. That was good. That was very rich. Because I do this in an elementary school as well. I always say I work with the little ones during the day and then the grown folks at night, you know, doing that. But and sometimes I can't tell the difference, but but you said some powerful things. A little boy in the 2nd grade came to me and he said he wanted to ask me what counseling was, right? He wanted to ask me. And I said, it's where you, because he came to me like literally walking down the hallway and he felt safe. And I'm thankful to talk to me. And he said, well, what is it? And I was like, it's to help you with your feelings. If you're feeling a certain type of way, if you want to talk about it. And he said, my grandfather just died. And he blessed his heart. He said heart palpitation. I think he meant heart palpitations and a heart attack, but he was trying to get it out, regurgitating probably what he saw. You know, let me just take these down for a second. With what he saw, right? And he said, and I said, you know what? I said, how do you feel about that? I said, I want to know your feelings. Can you share your feelings with me? What are you feeling? And he was kind of like numb in a sense, like he was just smiling. I was like, it's okay to feel whatever you need to feel. And he was just talking and telling me. I said, sometimes do you feel like you want to cry? And he said, yes. I said, I don't care. And this is what I told him. Could have been right or wrong. I said, I don't care who's telling you not to cry. It's okay. I said, because all that in here, you got to get it out there. You got to be able to speak it out. And I just talked to him and I said, I'm here. Anytime you need a hug, we're going to hug it out, whatever you need. But a lot of young boys, they grow up, like you said, to be somebody's husband or to be somebody's boss or to be somebody's whatever as a man. And if they're not taught at a young age that it's okay to express your emotions, it's okay to cry, it's okay to try to name what's going on, like what is the emotion you're feeling? And even if they don't know what emotion is, what are you feeling? You know, and oftentimes with kids, I don't like to prompt, do you feel sad? And they'll be like, yeah. Do you feel happy? They'll be like, yeah. So it's important to get people at an early age to be able to express how they feel. Myron, I want to come to you as we're talking about childhood trauma, and then we're going to move on in a little bit. But as an adult, as a Black man, as a life coach, has your childhood trauma ever resurfaced as you were coaching somebody or as you were trying to figure out some things in your life? And I know you talked about your divorce. Did anything creep up? And if so, how did you handle that?
Oh, yes. Especially when I was married, a lot of issues. To go back to something Stacy said and Dr. Allen said, a lot of things happen in our childhood that we don't address and we don't talk about, and it ends up trickling over to our relationships. And so having to go through like anger issues, going through not really having that mom that was there to be nurturing, to, you know, because it was 6 of us in the household, 4 sisters and my brother and I have a twin brother. So it wasn't that nurturing type of deal that was going on in the household. We didn't grow up in the I love you household or the hugging type of deal. But at the same time, as I grew older and when I was married, one thing my wife at the time did was, because we have a son as well, or she has a son rather, we made sure that even though that we didn't grow in that kind of household, that kind of environment, we made sure that we told our kids how much we loved them every day. We complimented them, we encouraged them, we motivated them, we did the hugging, that type of deal. Because just because we didn't grow up in that kind of environment doesn't mean that you have to continue it on. I mean, it had to stop somewhere. And so I was just glad that I had a partner at the time to be able to address that and be able to show our kids that we do love them. Matter of fact, I was just talking to my daughter for Thanksgiving while we was driving to Mississippi at the time. I told her, I said, you know, I got your back, right? I said, I got your back 100%. I said, I'm team. Her name is Morgan. I said, I'm Team Morgan. I said, I want you to be able to come to me and talk to me about whatever you want to talk to me about in a respectful way. Whatever you want to ask me, whatever you want to say, feel comfortable in talking to me about. Don't worry about getting in trouble or me being disappointed or me being mad. Just come and talk to me. Let me know what's on your mind, what's going on. And I tell her brother that the same thing. Because when I grew up, I didn't have that opportunity. I didn't feel comfortable enough talking to my parents about whatever that was going on with me. So some of it had came to me showing up in me being angry all the time because I had so much built into what was going on. But it wasn't until like I got older where I started to go to what Realitee said. I had to acknowledge what was hurting me, what was making me angry, what I was going through. So that's the biggest thing for everybody. Like once you acknowledge what's going on and that hurt, that's when the work starts. That's when you can know what you need to do to move forward, to fix everything, to make things better. So I won't go through it in another relationship, or so my kids won't go through it as well.
Yeah, I love the fact that you leave that door open for your children and to even say, you know, hey, you can talk to me. Just some small things like that. They really go a long way where your children may think twice before they keep it in here, you know, because you've already given them and laid it out a safe place to be able to do that. I think that that's awesome. Chi, I want to ask you as we shift into relationships, because everybody has been wounded in some type of relationship. Everybody has experienced their baggage, your baggage together, mixed up, turned around, you know, because if you really want to know yourself, then you need to be in a relationship, because it's a mirror to see your unhealed pieces. What are you talking? Reality about to jump out the screen. What are you, when you've gone through your own divorce and you help people recover through their divorces, what are some of the things that you find, and what are some of the things that you've experienced in relationship? Like, how have you seen the places like, I thought you were there, but you need some work?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think relationships are mirrors, and I think relationships also push your buttons or trigger you in areas that, because I tell people you can only heal so far by yourself. When you bring another person in the picture, it really does show you how far you've truly come. Certain people trigger you in certain areas that you didn't even know was there, you know. And so I definitely, you know, fully aware of that in my personal life, but also when I'm coaching others in that area. But one of the things that I always like to do, I know Realitee spoke about this earlier around acknowledging the hurt. I'm big on visualization, right? So when it comes to, you know, the fact that you were in a bad relationship and you have all this baggage, all this emotional pain and all of this, like really challenging you before we even get started on the healing journey to create a vision of what will life look like in the absence of this pain. What would, not the experience, because we want to leverage the experience. They have some good nuggets and wisdom in there. But in the absence of this pain, what would life look like? What is you in your optimal state of being? What does that really look like? And people have a really hard time envisioning their life being good because they're so used to pain. And so I first have to fix your vision first before I can help fix whatever else is going on. So we go through a process of visualization, whether we do it through meditation or other forms, draw a picture, whatever the case may be, but getting you to look past where you are into your future so you can have a goal in mind. Because I feel like if you can see it, you can have it. If you can visualize it, it can become a reality. And then on top of that, what is that personal mantra that you're going to recite day after day? It's a quote, a scripture, a saying, whatever the case may be, that when that trigger shows up, you're ready to hit it with something positive. So, for example, I had a client that she had anger issues, constantly angry because of her divorce, and her ex-husband was abusive and that sort of thing. So she just had was always in a perpetual state of anger. And so we did the visualization exercise, and we talk about her personal mantra. And her personal mantra was, I'm not going to attend every fight that I'm invited to.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
every time that trigger would show up and she wanted to be angry, she wanted to pop up at the mouth at her ex and do this and that and the other, that personal mantra nipped that thing right in the bud. And so when it comes to triggers, I just find that that's one of many techniques that could definitely help. It's helped me, and it's definitely helped my clients. So
Yeah. Good stuff. Stacy, what was one thing, as your breakup, and I'm in the process of dealing with, with that as well. What was something that you learned about yourself as far as that place where you said, I need to work on Stacy with that? Well, you got to take it off mute. I think you're on mute. Mm-hmm.
Look, I said, how long do we have? Let me say this. So I was married before for 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my first aha moment, because we got married young. And then through the marriage, again, trying to figure it out, because I already knew the mother piece. So I knew that was affecting me in some type of way.
Yeah.
So when I started to look at my ex-husband now, I would see that I looked at his upbringing. So his mom was married to a man, wasn't his dad, and he was a firefighter. So, they worked 3 days on or whatever and off, and he was a provider. He wasn't for anything. So then I started realizing that's what my husband was, a provider, but he wasn't a nurturer. It was about money. It wasn't about being at home.
Yeah.
And so as I started to notice that, and then with my mommy issues, we were constantly at war a lot of times. And so of course you go, we need counseling, that's the first thing you go to. And then he wasn't a big fan of counseling, and we would go, and it was almost like a joke, because I'm in there serious, like, we need to fix this, but he's not taking it seriously. So, as you're going on and trying to fix it, and you're realizing that you got two broken people together, you know what I'm saying? And if you're both not willing to fix it at the same time, it's really not going to work. And so, in 11 years, I finally, was the one that asked for the divorce, because at the end of the day, I want him to be happy. And I will be happy. And if you're not willing to do the work and agnowledge and see what it is for you, so that we can come together and have something good, then I have to save myself. So now we're going forward into the one that I just broke up with, and Jesus Christ, that is the one that when I tell you I'm saved and I'm great now, because he was really a textbook narcissist. And so again, you find out, because people throw that word around, but this was the real deal. I promise y'all it was. And so what I realized with him is he had traits like my father. So he had daughters. He was into his daughters. And I was like, oh my God, he's like my dad, and like really was into me. And I was like, oh my God, this is him, Then it started turning to be controlling and alienating me from my family, and my family trying to do an intervention with me. And I'm in it going, I know this is not right.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this to yourself? And then you get to a place where it depends on finances at the time. So you're like, well, I'm going to go. It was just a lot, And so as I'm in it, I'm knowing now I don't want to be with him. So what is my plan? How are you doing? Because people start telling me, you don't look the same. Your face, it was just a lot. And so as I started to, plan my exit, I started to dive deep into me. And when I finally called it off, when I did walk away, I was like, we got to understand We gotta understand, why did you allow it? Because this isn't his fault. This is not his fault. This is all you.
Yeah.
This is the experience that you had to go through, because, you know, a lot of times, like I think someone said, we kind of be like, you know, we want to point the finger. But you got to really understand, how did you get into this? Why didn't you get into this? You know what I realized? I didn't love myself like I thought I did.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
My hair was done. And my face was, you know, I thought was good. But I didn't love myself as much as I thought I did, because when I think about how people treat you, we'll tell somebody off quick that we don't know, like, you don't know me like that. But then you get into relationships, and of course you have your heart is into it. And so you kind of push back on setting boundaries. I had no boundaries. I had no boundaries. And so that's what I learned in 2020. While, you know, a lot of people were like, I'm gaining weight, I'm doing this. I'm like, I am healing on such another level.
Yes.
When I said healing now, I'm pulling 2020 healing to 2022, because that moment, the mantras, the affirmations, the meditation was on point. It was about me. I was Nester for the first time. So I didn't know. I'm like, oh my God, I don't have no kids in the house. What do I do? I can run around naked. Oh my God, you know. I was just such exhilarated in that. And then getting my own place for the first time, meaning no kids, no nothing, no dog. So I did take that time. I read a lot, I prayed, I meditated, and I did all these things. And now when I teach women how to bounce back from a breakup correctly, it's not to get over somebody, to get under somebody. That's not what we do. We have to first accept it. Then we have to know what was our role in it. Because
do your work.
So for me, I just to sum it up, at that one, me and my ex-husband are like this. We're cool, you know. But that last one, you know, I'm still working on it.
I know, honey, I know about the last one. Okay. It's certain things that I can't talk about publicly. I want to, but when I can, trust me, I will. I know about the gaslighting and the emotional abuse and the manipulation. Trust me, when I can talk about it, it's because it's healing, it's therapeutic, and you have to be able to do your work, and you have to recognize certain things, and you have to be able to be, like you said, take ownership. It's so important. And what I hear from you, Stacy, is the ownership piece, because at the end of the day, nobody does anything to you that you do not allow. You have to really take ownership of that. Because if you're that type that's going to blame everybody else, you're never going to be in the space to heal. You have to not take other people's stuff. You don't worry about that, because they have to heal on their own. Everybody has an independent healing journey. So everybody has to, you know what I mean, do that. And so many times, even when I'm speaking to my clients, my saying is honesty helps heal, right? And the first person you have to be honest with is yourself. You don't take anybody else's ownership or what they've done to you and take it for you, but you only can be responsible for you, and not talk about what everybody else did. You have to say, okay, well, what is it with you? And I have this worksheet that I have people do, and it's so amazing and it's so freeing to them. And it usually ends up in tears, because if you ask the right questions, even to yourself, you'll be able to understand what you're going through, and always point it here, because it doesn't matter what's happened externally. This is your temple, and you have to help heal yourself. And the longer you prolong it with saying, she did this to me, he did this to me, they did this to me, that's going to prolong your healing.
Yeah. The only thing I'll say at the end is, in a strange way, I'm thankful for it.
Yes.
I realized the boundaries. I have a book called Setting Boundaries, Finding Peace. And a lot of things that we don't think is boundaries, like even making your children hug people that they don't want to hug, is a boundary. So I just...
You reading? Whose book you reading?
I don't know her name. It's a Black therapist.
Yeah, you talking about... Yeah, I know you're talking about.
But it just helped me. So that relationship, I mean, I could dog them out, but I'm not. That doesn't do anything. But I have to be thankful in some way of the experience, because it's really propelled me into where I am now. And I'm thankful for who I am now.
Yeah. You talking about Nedra Glover's book?
Yep.
I knew that's when you mentioned that sitting on people's lap, I remember that, because I read that twice. It's so powerful. Dr. Keisha, when we talk about healing, right, and talking about relationships, and everybody's experienced different things in relationships, and I often call them our unorthodox teachers, because I think it's important to learn from any relationship, the good ones, the bad ones, and not so good. I think that you can learn from them all. And I think truly every relationship you have is a blessing if you look at it that way, no matter how bad. What do you think about the unorthodox teachings of relationships?
I think I'm an unorthodox teacher of relationships.
Mm-hmm,
As a
mm-hmm,
matter of fact, that's my work. That's what I do. When you go to my website, it says restorative relationship
mm-hmm,
coach. And oftentimes people think that when I mention the word relationship, that I'm talking about romantic
mm-hmm,
relationships. But what I'm talking, and what's interesting is one of my favorite sayings is when purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. And people oftentimes don't know the purpose of relationships. Neither do we view relationships as a science. There is a science to relationships. And if we're not taught the science of relationships, not just with an intimate partner, but the relationship with ourselves, the relationships we have, mother, father, sister, brother, girlfriend, a girlfriend, whatever the relationships are, and then the relationships that we have with our community, if we don't teach the science of those relationships, we will continue to go into relationships where we don't understand their purpose, we don't understand our purpose, and what we're supposed to get out of it. One of the biggest things, I was about to call you Dr. Kendéll. Maybe I'm prophesying.
you know what?
I see it. But one of the biggest things is when we're getting into relationships, oftentimes we don't understand who we are and why we are. And so we choose people who are counterproductive to our purpose in our relationship, right? And we end up being in things that God never ever called us to, never ever had us to enter into, but he allows us free choice. And speaking of Jason Wilson, I actually trained his staff in restorative relationships, so I know him quite well. But there is a science to this, Kendéll, and how well we understand those principles determines how we flourish at every level, the individual level, the intimate level, and the community level, right? So understanding the dynamics, understanding the purpose. So I am very unorthodox as far as my teachings are concerned with relationships. When we understand who we are, why we are, that propels the decisions we make, how we view things, and we start asking better questions, right? No longer are the questions about, hey, what is your bank account? It becomes, what is your purpose and why are you here and who sent you?
Yep. That's so powerful. Dr. Keisha, let me tell you something. And that's so important to ask the right questions. Can you mute yours for a second? Okay, yep. I think it's so important to ask the right questions. A lot of people don't ask the right questions. It's when you ask stuff like, yes, okay, what's your credit score? What's your bank account look like? You ask questions like, are you opposed to going to therapy? How do you feel about coaching or therapy? What's your relationship like with your mother and your father? How do you feel about your children's, if they have children, your children's mother or your father? What did you learn from your last relationship? Those are things that really need to be asked. All the other things are great also, but I say if you're entering a relationship and they're opposed to therapy or counseling, run the other way. Or if they've never experienced it or had it. I did see what you said, G. I see it. I want to ask Ken about trauma bonding. Let's talk about that. And can you explain to our audience what that is, those that don't know?
Well, trauma bonding is practically the definitions in the name. So you are connected with somebody through a negative experience or a negative circumstance. And oftentimes trauma bonding is brought up when we're in a relationship that's unhealthy. To to the public, it's seen as unhealthy, but for some reason there's a connection between that couple that's keeping them in that relationship. And you know, these bonds at times they become very destructive in a person's purpose because you're compromising your values at times to make it work. And you're kind of forcing the relationship to work on a foundation that is not sturdy. We're building it off the trauma versus us having aligned values around, like you said, asking questions if a person's open to therapy if needed. You know, is someone even open to unpacking on how their childhood looked? We don't even ask people while we're dating at times, you know, how was your childhood? You know, how's your relationship with your parents? Some people have children and they're dating, but we don't touch that. We don't talk about that. And some people feel like, I'm not even going to talk to you about my child because I don't know you like that. But then it becomes, in the beginning, we don't talk about it, but then further on, we continue to not talk about it because we never established that comfortability in discussion. And I think that some people, we miss our red flags. And when we're missing these red flags, someone said, you know, I'm missing the red flags. My red flags look like Six Flags. And the problem with that is, you know, we're trying to create a false reality now. You know, so when it comes to the couples I work with, oftentimes they come in, they likely have a trauma bond going in. And then now they're like, how can we rewire this relationship to be more enjoyable, more fulfilling? And it's like, we have to unpack these bonds that's going on. And even in relationships where we have now, they identify as intimate partner violence, but also domestic violence. And instead of the victim, we call there a survivor, and the survivor could be male or female. And working, I work in child protection, and working in child protection, I had so much training on intimate partner violence, and some people think it's just the physical violence that's that, but you controlling the money. You're forcing me to have intimacy when I don't want it. You know, just regulating that person in a sense of, you know, not allowing them to be themselves. But at the same time, there's probably a small handful of reasons why the person stays in the relationship. And oftentimes it's because of the fear of what may happen if I'm alone or by myself. And that's where that bond comes in, and you know, and then we have the honeymoon stage and all those aspects of how people begin to reconcile, but then come back into a cycle with, you know, events happening leading to those negative situations again.
Can I add to that as well? And
Yes.
in addition to asking good questions, I think that was so powerful, Dr. Keisha, what you said. And I also think people need to also be better watchers as well. So we're asking the good questions, we're listening to people's response, but we also have to watch to see if the actions match, right? Because to Kendall, is it Kendall?
You got it.
Okay. To his point, you know, working with couples that are not couples, but people that have been through divorce or contemplating divorce, and they're saying, okay, you know, let me, you know, how do I know when it's time to leave and all this stuff? I'm going to leave next week. And they're just going through this cycle. But because they talked, right? They talked, we worked it all out. But the person is still doing the same thing they did that put you here in the first place. So you talked and you heard the things that you wanted to hear, but did you watch to see if the actions matched?
Very good.
It's the absence of watching that's causing people to stay in these cycles because they're listening. You're not seeing if there's a match. There should always be a match to what people are saying that they are and their intentions and what you actually see. If you say you'll promise that you'll never hurt me, but you cussing your mama out every weekend, right? Or you say, I'll never disrespect you, but you're being rude to the waitress. Right? It has to match.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
to add that point to what Kendall said.
I love that. And I'm going to get to reality. Very good. And it's what we have to understand is that relationships, all of them hold value, and it's never just somebody else's fault, right? You have to look at the whole picture. And I think when people are hurting and people need healing, they want to say they did this, they did that. But I think it's so important to really, in every relationship, really thank God for it. Whether, like Keisha said, relationships are parent daughter and son relationships, their business relationships, their friendships. And I know maybe we'll have to do a part 2 because we don't have time to talk about that, because I want to respect your time. But I believe in reality, you can definitely expound on this, but I believe that every relationship holds value, whether romantic or otherwise. And for me personally, I thank God for the relationships that I've had in my life, because I want to be stretched. I want to grow. I want to be the best version of me that I can be. And then that way, when I can do that, I can teach others to do that, because we talked about the experience earlier. We all have qualifications. Yep. But it's the experience that you have, like G said, to add to it. Like, let me go through this so I can be able to even teach from a different space. What do you think about relationships and the value? When you talk about self-love, you talk about healing, but the value in all relationships. What's your take on that, Reality?
So I definitely agree with you. I believe you find value in each relationship. I always say that relationships are similar to when you're walking in your Christian journey. Like when you're in the house by yourself, praising, worshiping, reading your word, you're like, oh, I got this spiritual thing down. But when you get out the house and somebody, test you the right way, that's when you're like, I thought I had matured. I thought I was healed. But I see I'm not just there yet, right? And that's how I feel relationships are. Yes, they all hold value, because I think God is very strategic in placing someone in your life in a specific season to use them to teach you something.
Yeah, amen.
You'd be like, oh, I've healed from this codependency. But then you get a person who they're telling you, oh, my love language is quality time. You like, because I think, right? And then you realize, oh no, I understand that your love language is not codependency, but your love language is quality time. However, I know that I have a codependency issue, so I have to set up boundaries in this area. But you'll find when you get in those relationships that you may not even know that you're still struggling with that until you're faced with it. So that relationship specifically held value because it exposed something to you. And I think that's also the beautiful thing in marriage, right? Because God will always, well, not always, but God will sometimes, there's a word I'm trying to get, but it's not coming out because I'm talking so fast. But God will put you with a partner who will challenge you and balance you in ways that you didn't know you needed to be balanced.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's such a beautiful thing. But as everyone else was saying, and I love that someone said, you have to ask them the hard questions. But I really teach my women, you have to ask yourself the hard questions before you ever get with them. Because if you don't strategically understand your purpose and why God placed you here and who you should be a helper to, you're going to fall and crumble every single time. So before you start asking anybody else hard questions, make sure if they turn those questions back on you, you understand what you're understand. I hate the whole thing bringing what you're bringing to the table, but you understand what my value is, because you will get those people who are counterfeits who will come in and who will test you on your value. Oh, you say your value in this area. So you have to know yourself enough to say, even when I am tested with these things, even when someone is challenging me in this area, I know my value, right? I hate the bringing to the table thing, but it's the easiest thing to say,
Right.
Unique value that I'm bringing to this relationship. I know my purpose. I understand why God has me here, and I understand the specific thing that I need in a relationship. And I find it so interesting, something that Stacy said earlier, even though she's not here. I'm going to get off of my soapbox.
No, I'm a bobblehead. I think my head is about to fall off. I agree.
Even though Stacy is not here, one of the key things I heard her say, because I think I have a really good gift of listening that God has gifted me with. But one of the things that I found so interesting that I heard her say that so many other people fall into, the one core value that she really needed in a relationship, she married someone who could not give it to her, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she had mother issues and she needed someone who could nurture her. But she ended up marrying someone who did not have that quality that she needed. And oftentimes that's what we do in relationships. We find someone who we believe are compatible, but we haven't found the core of what we truly need, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where that self-love work comes in, because once you understand the core of what you truly need, once you understand, no, I am worthy in every single room that I walk into, you don't end up settling for partners when you see they don't give you what you actually need.
Yeah.
So that's just what I wanted to say. And I cannot remember the original question, but I do believe that every relationship holds value. And the more you love yourself, the more you get to know yourself, the easier it'll be to point out and say, oh, you might be a good person, but that doesn't make you a good person for me. You know,
Yeah.
it's easier to exit that situation.
I love that. I love that. Very well said. And so I think we all can agree and attest to what you're saying. And I want to, and I want to quickly, I know we just have a little bit of time. Maybe, if you guys are up, we'll talk about it later if you want to do a part 2, maybe another 30 minutes at another time. But I think it's so important, as I tell my clients, I tell myself, like someone said earlier, when we're coaching our clients, oftentimes, in different, depending on what space it is, we're talking to ourselves. But it's so important just to acknowledge those teachers. And I can't say that enough, because in life we have a lot of teachers, and it's we need to reflect back into our lives, like you were saying, reality, to say, okay, what's this, what question I want to ask myself? What is it that I need from this? What can I give? What can I give? What is the real reason? And really asking yourself those questions. And that's how we really heal, is by asking those questions, accepting hard truths, being able to have relationships, different types, to get a better understanding of who we are. I want to ask Myron, then I want to ask Dr. Keisha, and then I'll go with the final question and we're out. When we're dealing with relationships, or dealing with loss, or dealing with abandonment and rejection, because someone asked a question about that, so I want to make sure that's answered. They emailed me about that. What can you speak to abandonment, loss, rejection? Because that's a hurt that a lot of people are dealing with. And I want to ask Myron and then Dr. Keisha, and I want to and then I have 2 questions. I have a question for Ken in Reality, and then we'll wrap up.
I think that when it comes to all of those words that you just listed, I don't think a lot of people are mentally prepared and ready for that. And so when we face it, we don't know how to handle it. And so sometimes people, they might handle it in a way where they start to get angry. They might spaz out. They might do some things or say some things that they may not, they really regret later. And so the first part of it is just being able to acknowledge it, being able to think about it. And we have to realize that some people are, when it comes to abandoning other people, when it comes to having a loss, everybody don't know which route to go with it. Everybody don't know how to handle it or what to say. So I'm always going to go to therapy. I'm always going to go to counseling. I'm always going to have positive people around me to help me figure out what's happening and what's going on. Because sometimes you can't do it yourself. So
Yeah.
I have to figure out what's happening, what's going on. How can I handle this the best way I know how, in a peaceful way, versus being angry about it, versus being in a depression type mode, being discouraged, or being in my feelings about, like, what can I do to make things better? So when it happens again, I won't be so much in my feelings, especially when it comes to men. Men don't know how to handle their feelings sometimes when it comes to a loss, or especially when it comes to rejection. Definitely when it comes to, I want to speak to rejection as to when men try to approach women and women turn them down. And their egos are hurt, their pride are hurt, and they don't know how to handle it, so they get disrespectful to the woman, calling her name, I've seen so many stories where men physically abuse women, follow them home, that type of deal. So it's all about like trying to know how to handle those emotions and those feelings because I've been rejected, I've been turned down before, and I just hunch my shoulder like, okay, cool, because every time you try to approach a woman, it's always a 50 chance of her saying yes or no. So that's pretty much how I handle things. I'm not sure if Ken, I think he's gone.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how he handles things or how he approaches his clients with that. But I would just love to hear everybody else's response on that one as well.
Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. You helped somebody. Dr. Keisha, when we talk about the spirit of abandonment and rejection, people hurting in that space, what do you want to say to that person or people?
I really want to speak to your audience, and I want to specifically talk about the fact that at some point you are going to experience loss.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't experienced it yet, it's coming. At some point, you will experience rejection. If you haven't experienced it yet, it is coming. And we want to teach our, especially our children, we want to teach them how to live in this happy, blissful, peaceful kind of fun life. But the reality is, we don't teach them how to necessarily deal with the hard things that are inevitable, that will come. And so you will at some point deal with loss. You will at some point deal with rejection. And what I want you to know is that you will be all right, that you can navigate through it, you can get through it, and you can use your pain as your medicine. I don't want you to die in the process of your pain. I don't want you to die in the process of your rejection. It is all a part of the making of your story. It is all in the part of you even helping someone else to recover in their story. And so, you just being here, present, and on this earth, you will experience those things. How you deal with it, how you address it will be 100% up to you. And what I want you to also know is that when you experience this loss, when you experience rejection, you are not by yourself. There is a community of people who you're not even aware of, who are with you. So don't be afraid to share your scars and what you're going through and what you're experiencing, because what you will find is community. And in your community, what you will find is the beginning of the road to your own restoration and your own healing.
Brilliantly said. I love that. You talk to somebody. Somebody is listening. I hope there's a couple of people that emailed me, one about loss, one about abandonment and rejection. So I know you spoke to them. As we wind down Reality, can you talk to the person who is struggling to even love that? You talk about self-love, right? You talk about healing. But they're having a difficult time forgiving themselves, and they're trying to heal from everything that they've been through, and they're trying to heal. Speak to that person that has a difficult time forgiving themselves. We're not even talking about loving, even just forgiving.
The first thing I would want to say and remind them of is the Bible lets us know once we ask God for forgiveness, He forgives us and He doesn't even think about it anymore. So, why are you holding something against yourself? And this is the question that I would be asking that person. Why are you holding something against yourself that God doesn't even remember? You are agonizing over something and giving the devil more power in your mind and in your life than you can ever imagine, right? Because what we have to realize in another thing in the Bible, and everybody knows, like, I'm a big Bible girl. I'm gonna come with the scripture every single time because I know that the word of God is our sword, right? So another thing in the Bible, it lets us know that the devil loves to torment our mind. It says, take every thought captive. So immediately, and I give all of anybody who follow me on social media, they know I give affirmations daily, multiple times a week. You need to use the word of God to speak to yourself, to build yourself up. So even when you cannot forgive yourself, you need to say, you know what? By faith, I forgive myself. I don't feel like I forgive myself. I don't feel like I'm past this. I don't even feel like I'm worthy of being here today. But I know in the word, and you go find something in the word. My what you call that? My Instagram is my full name, Realitee Payne. I have a highlight tab on my social media for biblical affirmations. Go through and find the ones that speak to you, right? Because once you can build yourself up so much and really speak to yourself, as they said in those mantras, it doesn't matter what you feel. Everything must bow to the word of God. So you may not feel like you forgive yourself. You may not feel like forgiving yourself. You may not feel like you are worthy of forgiveness because of what you went through. But you have to understand, the moment you cast your cares off of you and onto God, it's a clean slate. Like, devil, you have no territory here. You cannot come after me. I'm now hidden under the shadow of the Most High. Like, I take every thought captive in my head. I'm sorry. I get on like preaching. So
I was trying not to. I was trying. Let me tell you, Dr. Keisha was about to shout, and I was about to throw my shoe. But look who's remaining on this call. Everybody, this was a long conversation, so let me just address that. Deborah said, yes, let me just address that. So they weren't just falling off. I knew that this show would be about 90 minutes, but we went a little further. So I told people if they had to go, then they could just drop off. I don't want you to think that they were being irresponsible or something happened. They had to go. And I honor your time. And I thank you all for still being here. Let me just say that. And I appreciate everybody who was here. But look who God left on this just for a moment. The minister, Dr. Keisha. And then you may not be a minister, you may not be a preacher, you may not be, but you a Bible scripture. Let me tell you something. When I saw your page, I was like, oh, okay. And as you're talking now, I had a podcast that I've had for 8 seasons. It's called Shine with Kendéll Lenice. But I started 2 weeks ago another podcast, a 15 minutes or less podcast. And guess what it's about?
Forgiving yourself.
It's about scripture. It's called Verses on Verses. Let's break that down. So it's about it's Kendéll Lenice and friends to come in, your favorite scripture, 15 minutes or less for people, just like you just did, for people who may not know the Bible, who are not religious, who don't want to hear all that Bible talk. It's a way that we break it down so they can digest it in a layman's kind of way. You know what I mean? So I definitely want to have both of y'all on that show. It's 15 minutes or less. Get in, get out. Let's break that down. So what it's saying is how you just did it. Mm-hmm. I'm like jumping. But look, everything in God's timing in order how it's supposed to be. We were the last 3 that were supposed to be on here. And Dr. Keisha, when you're listening to this beautiful woman down here, I can't even. Dr. Keisha, what you think? And you have no idea, because you are a girl after my own heart, and the way that you just eloquently broke that down. Dr. Keisha and I were about to jump out of our seats. Dr. Keisha, let's speak on that for a moment.
No, literally, I was thinking, did she come to one of my places where, I mean,
but that's why I'm saying it was
word for word. But that's what God does, right? And so word for word, line upon line, precept upon precept, some people plant seeds, some people come along and water. And so absolutely 100%. And I always tell people, listen, the seed is the word of God. You want to change your situation, you get into that word, and that word, you speak truth. It's not that the mountain comes down because we just like, mountain come down. No, you get your word. You speak that word to that mountain, and then that mountain comes down. So you are just on target, on point, and on fire. And I absolutely love it. Come on, Reality.
She's on fire for the Lord.
I have to be like, Reality, don't you? Because I'm telling you, I get on it and I'm like, don't you dare bow to them thoughts. So
that's why when I'm hearing some of the stuff you're saying, I've heard Dr. Keisha, that's how she operates and moves. So that's why I kept saying while you were talking, and I'm looking at your beautiful faces, I'm like, this was ordained. This was ordained, because I know y'all got stuff to do too, and we're going to end, but this was needed. And it's so important because, like I said, even with CNN, that's not a religious, organization, channel, network. And them saying, when they did their poll, 90% of people, when they ask what you're praying for, they said healing. So there are a lot of people out there. So we're going to end like that. We're going to end with a scripture, if you know it, or just talking to somebody as if they came to you personally, and you want to show them who God is and how they can heal through God's word. Either one can go first, and then we're going to wrap up.
Give me 1 second. I'm going to my Bible app because
and I asked it on the spot, so absolutely.
Because there's one that I always quote. Oh my goodness! So give me 1 second. So
No problem. Because and I'll talk until you can just cut me off, but I'll talk until you pull it up. But it's so important. We talked about, look at that beautiful girl. I saw somebody peek their head through. But we talk about healing, and we talk about therapy, and we talk about counseling, and we talk about coaching, and we talk about taking responsibility and ownership. All of those things are crucial to healing, acknowledging, owning, being honest. But we also have to understand that it's through him we heal. And it's calling on him, God, is how we're able to heal and sustain. And when things shatter our worlds and things happen, we're still able to smile and pray and still have joy in our hearts, even though we need healing. And that's a testament of God's grace and God's glory over our life. And anything that we've been through in life, anything that we're going through now, we have to understand and know that God got us. And we have to go through those things to move to the next level. He has to grow us through these things that we need to be healed from. And he has to grow us in these because he has a bigger purpose for us. Reality.
Sorry that took a little while. I thought it was Corinthians 4. Okay.
Wait a minute. Dr. Keisha was saying something. Go ahead, Dr. Keisha. And then
I was going to go ahead and go with mine because my daughter is really trying to plug in my computer. Okay, there we go. Now we have power. And so just specifically what you asked in terms of scriptures on healing, there is a verse in Luke 10:19 that says, "Behold, I give you power to tread upon serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you." Now, there are several other scriptures that I can talk about. The scripture that deals with by his stripes we are healed. I mean, there are so many scriptures in the Word of God that I could give you, but I really want to focus on Luke 10:19, because when it says nothing by any means shall hurt you, what that means is that whatever the purpose and the plan is that God has for you can never, ever be hurt. It can never, ever be thwarted. It doesn't mean that you won't go through harm. It doesn't mean that you won't go through pain. But what it means is that the word of God in you, his purpose in you is so strong, is so solid that nothing will be able to hurt the purpose that God has for you. I don't care what it is that you go through. You will tread upon serpents. You will tread upon scorpions. You will tread upon all the power of the enemy. And you will still come out fine. And he will take your ashes and he will make them beautiful, because you stayed connected, because you stayed true, and because you stayed in the vine, right? So it doesn't mean that you're not going to experience life. You are. But nothing will be able to stop what it is that God had planned for you before the foundations of the world.
And see, I think God is so intentional, because the scripture that I was looking for, it literally connects to Dr. Keisha's. And it is 2 Corinthians 4, 8, and 9. And it says, we are pressed on every side by troubles, but we are not crushed. We are perplexed, but not driven to despair. We are hunted down, but never abandoned by God. We are knocked down, but we are not destroyed. And I feel like that speaks to life. You may be going every side and it looks like something is wrong. But if you can remember that no matter what happens, you are never abandoned by God. Literally, I proclaim over myself that I will go from glory to glory, even if it doesn't look like I'm in glory right now, glory to glory, right? So that is a scripture that I use to remind myself and that I use to remind my clients all the time. It doesn't look like it doesn't matter what you're going through. It doesn't matter what it looks like, because everything could be going on, but you are never abandoned by God and you are not destroyed, and it doesn't matter, right? And
Yeah.
then claim over yourself. You go from glory to glory, never lack, never needing, right? Because we already serve a God who provides for us.
That's it. That's all. Tell the people how they can get in contact with both of you. We're going to end on the word.
So for me, it's in the title, KeishaAllen.com. There is a way to message me if needed be. As far as restorative relationship coaching, as far as speaking is concerned, just go to Keisha Allen, and that's with one A, KeishaAllen.com. I would love to stay connected with you all, and thank you, Kendéll, for providing this amazing platform and for speaking to the hearts, the minds, and the souls of people. And, you know, what I'm really feeling right now, Kendéll, is somebody tonight was snatched from despair and from a decision that was getting ready to be terminal. So thank you for being obedient to God and providing this platform where someone is very much now aware that they can make it through another day. Thank you for that.
Thank you for that. That's my prayer and hope. Reality?
And for me, you all can find me at my website. It's Realitee Payne, spelled just like my name, RealiteePayne.com. I'm also on Instagram and TikTok. I'm learning the TikTok world, but on there, on my Instagram, you will see, just as Keisha said, Miss Keisha, Dr. Keisha. I'm sorry, I hate to disrespect people's titles. You work hard, girl. Just as Dr. Keisha said, you can find ways of booking me for coaching there. If you do need just a discovery call to see if we're a good fit, to see if, you know, what you need help with, I'm actually able to help you with. I do offer a discovery call free of charge, so you can go to my website to book that. Also, I am on my website. You can book to speak, and I will have my renewed guided journal that has over 150 questions in there. As we talked about today on this panel, like, you have to ask yourself the hard questions if you want to begin to heal and uproot the trauma that you've experienced, right? So I will be getting my renewed guided journal back on my website sometime before tomorrow. But so you can go to my website, Realitee Payne. My Instagram handle is the same, Realitee Payne, and my TikTok is the same, Realitee Payne. So you can find me across the board under that name.
I love it. I got to talk to Dr. Keisha because somebody called me a snitch because I said I was going to tell you. Takia said, Keisha's my coach. She just thinks she's my friend, but she's really my coach too. And I said, I'm going to tell her. She called me a snitch. I absolutely love it. It's beautiful when, I mean, we got, man, oh man, we got so many comments. I was trying to put as many as I can up there. I see everybody, and everybody, this was my goal, you know, and anytime I do panels and different things like that, you know, like this, it's about really helping us. And if other people catch on to it and see it, that's even, you know, that's even a bigger blessing. But I really want to bring programming like this to really help heal people. And a lot of times when we're going through social media, or they're seeing people who are, yes, I'm a life coach of 20 something years, but I want to share myself. I wanted other people like, you all did, to share yourself, to see no matter what you do, no matter what your title is, no matter where you are in life, economic status, all of that people go through pain and people are still healing, because people think that two things can exist at the same time. You can't be your professional self and you can't be in a place of healing. But I want people to understand and know that they're not alone. And, I think Ken said it, as long as you're still living, as long as you're still doing whatever, and everybody kind of touched on that, then you're going to be healing. Keisha said it. Dr. Keisha said it. No, as long as you're doing this, as long as you're this, you're still going to be healing. So it's not a destination. It truly is, as cliche as it sounds, it's a journey. And that journey starts with self-love and the love of God, right? Because God planned all of these steps. He already knew what we were going to go through. He already knew how we were going to respond. And I said it earlier, it's about to really stretch us and to grow us. Ladies, I'm so thankful that you stayed. We've been on here. Oh, Keisha wants to say something.
Last thing I want to say, because you are the epitome of people who have arrived to a certain level and who are hurting, but they don't talk about it. And one of the things that you said is that you are going through your own healing right now. And so speaking to you and also to the other people out there who may be in positions of authority, who may be in positions where they are widely viewed and people look at you or perceive you a certain way. Don't be discouraged, right? As you said, Kendéll, continue to do your work. And don't be ashamed of what you've experienced and what you have gone through. Don't start doubting yourself. Don't start doubting your gifts, your talents, or your abilities. God still has you here for a reason and for a purpose. So thank you, Kendéll, for shining the light to show that just because you're in a position of success or leadership, it doesn't mean that you don't have hurt and that you don't go through pain. But how you navigate the process determines how you come out. So thank you, Kendéll, for sharing your truth. I appreciate that.
Girl, don't get me on here crying. Don't get me on here crying. It's just so important, because life's. And I've had an incredible last 2 years. I just survived colon cancer, last year. I mean, I've had, deaths, the dissolution of my marriage. My father passed away. I mean, I've had a lot can go on. The last 2 years has been life altering, and I'm still standing and I'm healing and I'm looking and I'm learning. I do this intentionally, right? So I can give the best that I can give to someone else. And I just want to encourage you, if I put a timeline on all the stuff that has happened in my life over the last 2 years, you would wonder how I'm standing. And it's only, I'm going ready to cry. It's only by his grace and his glory that even when I've gotten the diagnosis, I was still smiling. I was still happy, never fake, never phony. God put it inside of me. You wouldn't even know what I was going through if I never told you. But I think it's my duty to tell you, because God has guided me through. And I would be disobedient to God if I didn't show his grace. Because what you see with me is what you get. I'm always happy. I'm chipper. I'm doing. That doesn't mean I'm not going anything. It's because God has given me that light that I already have inside. So that's why I just want to give it, because I'm not going to be stingy with my testimony, with my life, with my word, when I know that I'm still living and standing is because of God's grace and his glory. So I would be doing a disservice to him if I didn't share. You know what I'm saying? My mom hates it. You share so much in your business because, back in the day, you don't share all this stuff. But I think it's important because nothing has happened to me. It's happened for me. So I can be the mouthpiece for him. Goodness gracious. I didn't know it was going to go here, but I'm open to it all. Everybody is on here. I was very encouraged. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for taking the time and rolling with us for 2 hours. This was needed and necessary. And those that stayed on the entire time, I thank you. I see you. I can't acknowledge everybody one by one. I see you, Ricardo. I see you, Deborah. I see you, Troy. Let me try to say, I see you, in Shockley. I see you, Trey. I see you. I know Takia's on here, Miriam, Michelle, TP. I can't even, I see you all. And I thank you. Don't forget to subscribe, share this with someone who needs some healing, who needs a word, because a word was given throughout. It's so important to continue on your healing journey. Remember, don't get discouraged. Don't feel like you can't make it through. You can. Healing is in your present right now, because if you're watching this show, you need healing. And I know these guests gave you a lot of tools to start using. Make sure you follow them all. I'll have everyone's Instagram in the body of this once this is uploaded. But ladies, thank you so very much. I appreciate your time. I don't take it lightly. Remember, guys, you are a star. Don't allow anyone to dim your shine. Until next time, God bless. Peace. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. God bless y'all.
I just want to say